Welcome back to my movie review series. On today's episode, I will be reviewing on the 2006 Sony Pictures animated movie, and that is Open Season. No wonder is not a good start for an era of Sony Pictures animation movies. The movie premiered on September 29, 2006. The movie airs on Cartoon Network, Discovery Family, Nickelodeon, Nicktoons, Disney Channel, and streaming on Netflix, Apple TV, and Amazon Prime Video. In the small town of Timberline, a domesticated grizzly bear named Boog lives with his adoptive caretaker, a park ranger named Beth, who has raised him since he was a cub, and spends his days as the star attraction of the town's nature show. One day, hunting fanatic Shaw drives into Timberline with a one-antlered mule deer named Elliot tied to the hood of his truck. Boog frees Elliot, who becomes convinced that they are friends, and that night, Elliot finds Boog and convinces him to sneak out, and the two end up raiding Puny Mart, a local convenience store. Eventually, Elliot runs away while Boog is caught by Gordy, the town's sheriff and Beth's best friend, who returns Boog to Beth and tells her that Boog's feral instincts may be emerging and it may be time to release Boog into the wild. The next morning, Elliot is being chased by Shaw, and goes to Boog for help at the nature show. Boog tries to get rid of him, but the audience mistakes him for attacking Elliot and goes into a panic. Beth tranquilizes them both just before Shaw fires his own gun, then flees before Gordy can arrest him, and taking Gordy's advice, Beth relocates Boog and Elliot into the Timberline National Forest 2 days before open season. They are relocated above the waterfalls, where they will be legally safe from hunters. Boog is initially enraged to have lost his home, but lacking outdoor survival skills, he reluctantly takes Elliot as his guide to get him back home to reunite with Beth. They encounter unwelcoming forest animals, including a Scottish accented squirrel named Msquizzy and his gang of fellow acorn-throwing squirrels, Beaver Riley and his construction worker team, and Elliot's estranged herd, led by Ian and Giselle, a doe that Elliot has a crush on. Eventually, Boog and Elliot start to bond after realizing they are both outcasts, and Boog considers letting Elliot stay with him when they get back home. The next day, Elliot attempts to lead Boog out of the forest, but it becomes evident he has no clue where they are going. The two are confronted by Shaw and accidentally destroy Riley's dam trying to get away, causing a flash flood which sends the animals and Shaw plummeting down the waterfall into the hunting grounds. At first, everyone blames Boog for sending them into the hunting grounds, until he then accuses Elliot of lying to him about knowing the way home, leading all the animals to turn against Elliot instead. Elliot admits he thought that if Boog spent time with him, he would befriend him. Boog ends his friendship with Elliot and angrily storms off, but unwittingly ends up in Shaw's log cabin, where he is discovered by Shaw, Goldilocks and the Three Bears style. Boog escapes to a nearby road leading back to Timberline. Realizing the danger the animals are in, Boog returns to the woods, reconciles with Elliot, and rallies the animals to defend themselves against the hunters. They scavenge supplies from an RV owned by a traveling couple named Bob, who is mute, and Bobby, who are looking for Bigfoot, while their pet dachshund Mr. Weenie joins the forest animals. Will Boog, Elliot, and the other animals be able to defend their home from Shaw and his fellow hunters? The story is a mixed bag, and while this movie does have some decent things going for it, like some decently funny jokes, there is a bit of heart to it thanks to Beth. There are a couple of fun scenes, and the concept of animals standing up against hunters, although done before, is an interesting one. There is still quite a bit going against the movie, like some pretty lame and cringy jokes. There's not really any charm to it. There is a hint of both awkwardness and annoyance to it, and certain plot points in the movie are pretty generic and cliched. The humor in this movie is very split, as while there are some decently funny moments in this film like the dark humor and some of the gags, most of the humor tends to rely on Elliot and his antics, and those bits come off as pretty annoying and cringy. The movie also isn't really that charming or heartfelt, as while there is a bit of heart in the beginning with Beth making her decision to let Boog go, the other moments that are supposed to be charming or heartfelt just come off as either cliched or awkward. The movie does admittedly have a couple of fun action scenes, like with the dam breaking and Boog and Elliot trying to survive the escapade, and the climax where the animals go to battle against the hunters. For Sony Pictures Animation's first film, the animation is just kinda alright, as there are some issues like some of the designs looking kinda weird, and it can look awkward at times, but overall it is mostly pretty decent, like some of the other characters having some okay designs and do have some decent movements. The backgrounds and settings are decently crafted and do have some nice details, and there are some well-crafted effects. The characters are a mixed bag, as there are some that are kinda alright and decently likable, like Boog, Beth, Gordy, Mxquizzy, and Shaw is a decent villain even if he can be a bit too crazy, but everyone else is just kinda there and not really contributing to anything aside from the climax at the end, like Mr. Weenie, the deer like Giselle and Diane, the skunks, the ducks, Buddy the porcupine, and the beavers. As for Elliot, he's easily the worst character in the movie, as not only is he pretty annoying and his shtick is pretty cringe-worthy, but he's also responsible for all of Boog's misfortunes in the movie. The voice acting is pretty solid, as the voice actors do give some pretty decent performances, like Martin Lawrence as Boog, Ashton Kutcher as Elliot, Gary Sinise as Shaw, Deborah Messing as Beth, Billy Connolly as Mxquizzy, Gordon Tootoosis as Gordy, Jane Krakowski as Giselle, Patrick Warburton as Ian, and more. The music is mostly just kinda alright, as while it does sound nice, it's also not really that memorable. Verdict: 6 out of 10. For first film in the Sony Pictures Animation movie era, they did get off to a relatively weak start, as while it's not an awful movie, you're not really missing out if you skip it. And since I never really got into this movie, I had, and still have, no interest in checking out any of the sequels.